Alright guys, it's February 13th, 2019, and here in this little pot are some decomposing star fruits. I know it may not look like star fruit, but it is. It looks like a bunch of dead leaves, but it's actually star fruit. I was actually just messing around in the garden and came across these star fruits that I had forgotten to plant. So I didn't take the seeds out of them. They're still in these star fruits. I'm not sure if anything's gonna come of it, but you know, we've had some worse looking stuff grow around here, so why not? So there's our star fruit. We'll go ahead and throw all this. Oh, there you go. You can see some of those seeds right there. See right there, there's some seeds. So the seeds are already starting to fall out. I'm assuming that if this were to happen naturally out under a starfruit tree, the fruits will fall right beneath the tree, start decomposing just like they are there, and maybe some of them would grow. So we're in a way we're kind of mimicking that process, other than of course using the Miracle-Gro potting mix. But we'll see how it turns out. We'll see here in maybe a month or two. Shoot it down. Right. So let's get this setting. There it is. We'll just leave it right out here for about a month or two to see if anything pops up. All right, guys, we're back to the star fruit, and it's been about a month. So as you can see here, we've got two of them that have come up, and they look beautiful. So now that we know that they're going to be coming up, we can go ahead and look forward to more of them coming up, because we did put a couple of rotten star fruits in this pot. We didn't know if they were going to make them or not, but apparently they're doing okay. So we'll leave them there for a couple of days, and we'll come back and see if any more of them have come up. All right, guys. So it's March 20th, 2019, and we're back here at the little star fruits that we had planted into this dirt. So we just took a bunch of rotten star fruits and threw it into a pile of a little pot full of dirt, and covered it up slightly to see if anything would come of it. I was a bit skeptical, you know, because the fruits were already rotten, and I didn't think just by looking at the fruits that the seeds would be any good, because the fruits were all moldy and just, you know, disgusting. But if you think about it, that's really how the germination process actually begins. When a fruit falls off the tree, it just kind of rots on the ground, decomposes, and winds up in the dirt, and all the foliage from the plant just falls down and creates that layer of compost, which also feeds the plant and nourishes the soil for the seed to come up in. So here we have it. We have two little star fruit plants. There's a third one right there to the left, right here. Brand new little guy coming up. These right here and here are weeds. So I've got to pluck those guys out before they suck all the nutrients away from these plants. But here are those two little star fruit plants that we first noticed. They're well along the way, so we'll let them come up a little bit more before we start talking about transplanting. So I think we're gonna give this guy at the very least a month to have a chance to pop up anymore. So you can see right there, there's one just trying to come up right there, because we did throw quite a few star fruits into this, and I know there's probably over 20 seeds. So we'll see what this little pot has in store for us. We'll come back within a month to see how these two are doing, actually these three, and we'll see where we go from there. Alright guys, so it's April 25th, 2019. I'm back in the garden again, and here we are with those star fruits. When I made the first clip, there were 2 that came up, and then the next clip had about 3, and a 4th one just under the soil coming up. Now, as you can see, we've got a whole bunch of star fruit, little small baby trees that are coming up here. We've got over 10 of them. So as you can see here at the top, the star fruit has lots of leaves, and it's easy to tell that these leaves are definitely going to get really crowded. So I'm really not sure if I want to uproot all these little star fruit and plant them individually, but I may not have a choice because these leaves are just going to continue to push on each other, and I don't want the trees to grow up struggling to get taller. Because you can see there are a few here that are taller than the rest. That's just because they came up before the rest, but I don't want them to interfere with each other's growth as they get bigger. So I may just loosen the soil up and plant all these individually. I know there are lots more seeds down there that have yet to come up, but I think we've got enough star fruit trees to start a little propagation project with. So maybe here in the next couple of weeks, but definitely within the next month, I'll be loosening the soil up and placing each one of these little star fruit trees in their own individual pots. So I'll come back then, and during that transplant, and we'll actually, after that transplant, I'll go ahead and put that video up so you guys can have a look at what the star fruit trees look like then. Alright guys, so today is July 22nd, and it's been about 3 months since we've been back to the star fruit here. So today we're going to be transplanting. I know it's going to be a pretty hairy process because we planted all of them in one container here, so I've got to untangle the roots as usual. So with my experience of doing this, when I untangle the roots and replant them, they always struggle. So the foliage would fall off, parts of the plant will start dying, but they tend to make it back. We'll see though. I'm going to go ahead and loosen these roots up. I'm going to go ahead and get these guys out actually before I loosen the roots up, so you guys can see what the root ball looks like. Alright guys, so I've got the star fruit out of the container, and the roots don't look too bad. However, we've got termites in this soil. So I'm going to go ahead and spray this down, loosen them all up before I go ahead and replant them. Alright guys, well there we have it. I've got the star fruit plants transplanted, and we've got 12 in these 5-inch pots and 6 in these gallon-sized pots. So we've got 18 altogether. I'm not sure if they're all going to make it. They all were perfectly fine when we transplanted them, but we'll see how the transplantation works for them. With my experience in transplanting plants that have been growing together in one container, they don't do so well for the first week or 2, maybe even 3, but they do tend to bounce back. So with my soursop plants, with their transplantation, their growth was kind of stunted, but I did grow them in those recyclable paper pots. However, they are doing fine now, and seem to be growing at an okay rate, I guess you can say. With the guavas that I had transplanted, they really struggled the first and second week, but they really bounced back, and they're very vivacious right now. So I'm hoping that it didn't take too long for me to go ahead and get these guys transplanted, that time frame between exposing the roots and getting them back into some soil wasn't too long, so that these guys don't wind up struggling too bad through these next couple of days. So that's it for the transplantation portion of this video. I'll go ahead and wait maybe a couple of weeks before we come back to these starfruit plants. Alright, so I just wanted to interject real quickly here, because before the next clip I'm going to mention that it is we're already in the year 2020, and that's because I don't know what I did with the clip prior to the one where I'm actually telling you that it's July 2020. And that's kind of a bummer because that kind of allows things to go, you know, throughout the timeline. But like I said, I don't have it. I couldn't find it, so we'll just have to pick up at the year later mark. So here it is. It's July 25th, 2020, and it's been a month since we brought these guys out here, and I just really couldn't figure out where to plant them. But now I'm just gonna go ahead and put them somewhere because I really feel bad leaving them here in these pots. That's actually pretty horrible, leaving them here when I should have put them into the ground about a month ago. So we'll go ahead and put them into the ground. Where I'm gonna place them is on a slope. So there's always the issue of erosion, but I don't think it'll be too much of an issue. We'll just let these guys do their thing after we get them planted. But we'll go ahead and get them planted here, and we'll pick back up right after that. All right, so we've got one here. He's gonna go right into there. So I've had to cut multiple roots off of these surrounding trees here. As you can see, there's a tree right here and a tree right there, and I had to cut some roots out of that little hole right there just to get a little space for our star fruit. So I know it may seem not so ideal to place them where other trees are already sucking up all the nutrients. Plus I've got this little guava here that's pretty close to it, this coconut tree and that soursop, but I think there's enough space out here for all these plants to be able to survive. So I'm gonna go ahead and just put them into the ground. I know if there's one of the most important things that he needs, it's water. And I've already got that problem solved because we've got the creek that is right back here in these bushes, and it's got an abundant supply of water. So we'll go ahead and put this guy in, and we'll go ahead and get the other ones planted as well. All right, so there we have him. Like I said, he's on a slope, so I kind of left a little pocket right here just so when I water, it tends to collect right here and go downwards instead of just sliding all the way down this slope here. So on to the next one. There we have it. There's number 2 planted. Number 2 is actually looking pretty good because he's got all this branching going on over here. But I did notice some of this white stuff. No idea what it is. It was all over the base of the plant. Hopefully the plant just outlives whatever that stuff was. But here's number 2, and on to number 3. And there we have it. We've got number 3 planted. So you can see there's still upward growth, but this plant has been really long overdue for putting into the ground. And I really hope this little guy here, well, these little guys flourish out here at the farm. But we'll give them a couple of months, and we'll come back to see what they look like then. It's February 26, 2022, and it has been a little under 2 years since planting these star fruit trees out here. So I think July would mark the 2-year mark that these star fruit trees have been planted out here, and we're still a little early in the spring, so I think we've still got some spring growth to look forward to. The plants are kind of tall and lanky, and like I said, they are planted on a slope. So I think it's been kind of slow growing as well, just because of the lack of water being caught as it runs down the slope. However, the star fruit trees are doing perfectly fine, in my opinion. They look great, actually. So we'll go ahead and move on. This is number 1 here, and we're going to go ahead and move on to number 2 and take a look at that one. And right here, in between these 2 coconut trees here, is this tall, lanky plant, and this is our number 2 star fruit. So you can see this one is standing about 6 feet tall, maybe a little over 6 feet, but I see some new growth up at the top here. I know it's kind of hard to see on camera, but I really don't want to move the camera too much so that it can catch the best resolution possible. And I'll give you guys a closer look in the future at how these star fruits look. But as for now, I think what it looks like now should be sufficient to see and observe the growth so far since planting them out here. So
These guys were actually, I think the video begins in 2019. So technically, these guys are over 2 years old, and they're coming up on actually, if I'm not mistaken, 3 years old. I may have the timeline twisted, but I'm pretty sure these guys are 2 years old for sure. So this is number 2 here, looking great, just as number 1 is. We'll go ahead and move on to number 3. And here we are at number 3, and I think number 3 looks the best of them all because he has the thickest trunk. So as I always say, I'm no professional at these things, but just observing them throughout time and watching them, how they operate and grow, really gives me a sense of how these things actually work. So this one here, as opposed to the other two, has a thicker trunk, and he may be catching more water than the other two, but then again, he's in a more exposed area here, as opposed to the other two, which actually have a lot of growth above them. This guy's kind of out in the open compared to the other two. So that may be a factor, contributing factor to why he looks a lot more healthy, although he is leaning over. I will eventually prune these trees so that we don't have all this leaning here, but we have something more of like a brush or a bush to keep the plant compact. But like I said, this guy here is the healthiest of the 3, although all 3 of them are doing perfectly fine. But like I said, this has been a couple of years here in the making, and I'm glad I finally get to close this video in showing you guys how the star fruits look. So if you got any questions, feel free to ask in the comments. Otherwise, I know this is pretty slow for star fruits, and they should be a lot bigger than this, but I've done a horrible job at transplanting and actually putting them into the ground. So if you do it in the proper order and at the proper times, you'll have much better success than I do here. But all I have is time, so I'm not worried about it, and I'll wait on these plants to reach their maturity and eventually to the point where they flower and hopefully fruit. But until then, or until something significant happens, that's it for the star fruits. Thanks for watching, guys.